Wow, she's sleeping so well. In the parking lot of the shopping mall, my mother-in-law Hillary parked the car and muttered as she looked at my daughter Mary, sleeping in the back seat. Once the engine was turned off, the car's interior, without air conditioning, quickly began to warm up under the blazing sun. Sweat soon appeared on Mary's forehead. Seeing Mary like this, Hillary smiled brightly, got out of the car by herself, locked the door, and left for shopping. My name is Misty. I'm a 29-year-old office worker living with my husband Cody and our 3-year-old daughter Mary, making us a family of 3. But our household actually consists of 5 people. The other 2 are my taciturn father-in-law Henry and my spiteful mother-in-law Hillary. When Cody and I decided to get married, I was told that we would be living with the in-laws. Henry has trouble with his legs and Hillary is anxious about driving, so they can't take themselves to the hospital. Because of this, Cody has always lived at home, even before we were married, and I admired Cody's thoughtfulness towards his parents. I also had no objections of living with the in-laws since I had lived with my grandpa and grandma when I was young. However, after years of this arrangement, I realized I had been too optimistic. Hillary is extremely short-tempered, stingy, and on top of that, she indulges in spiteful meanness like no other old woman. At least the grandma I lived with wasn't like this. I don't know how she was with my mom when I wasn't around, but I think they got along well on the surface. So I never imagined the battles between daughters-in-law and mothers-in-law I saw in dramas and documentaries were real. I just thought they were overblown. But Hillary shattered that notion. Her harassment show started from the first day we lived together. Once you step into my house, you follow my rules. That was Hillary's motto, and she assigned me all sorts of household chores. From preparing meals 3 times a day to cleaning the entire house, doing the laundry, gardening, and even washing the car. If I made any mistakes, it would lead to more trouble later, so I always watched and mimicked Hillary's way of doing things. On the other hand, when I did chores alone, she would stop whatever she was doing to stand behind me menacingly, watching my every move. Since we spent so much time together, Cody would say, "I'm happy to see how well Mom and you are getting along." This would make both of us grimace. Being worked to the bone by Hillary and going out frequently, I became acquainted with the neighbors. "Hillary can be so strict. It must be tough for you, right?" Who would sympathize? I learned that Hillary was somewhat of a notorious curmudgeon in the area, and that Cody's previous girlfriends had all been tormented by her. Cody was fairly popular and good-looking, but Hillary's nagging kept women at bay. I was oblivious to all this and felt almost despair when I first heard about it. Cody and I were having a smooth marriage, and Henry, though not much of a talker, was a gentle man. Hillary was my only problem. I thought if I could just endure her, we could have peaceful days. Everything changed when Hillary found out I was pregnant. Her eyes sparkled for a moment, but as soon as she learned it was a girl, Hillary's face turned visibly sour. "A girl? She'll just get married and leave someday. There's no point in raising her. Well, nothing can be done now. You should hurry up and have a boy." I was alone with her when she said this, and I couldn't help but get angry. Every child is precious, no matter who they are. It saddens me to hear you say such things. Besides, we don't have a family business to pass on, so there's no need for that, right? To which she replied, "Our family has been landowners for generations. The family name is special, and it would be troublesome if it were to end." She scolded me for selfish reasons. Honestly, I didn't marry Cody for his family background, and Cody himself doesn't seem to care about that. On the contrary, he talks about our daughter's future every day, so he must be looking forward to having a girl. But Hillary wouldn't show her son such a demanding side. She always says in the shadows, "Have a son." That's why she's so insidious. Her attitude didn't change even after Mary was born. In front of Cody and Henry, she always pretended to dote on Mary. But if she was in a bad mood, she wouldn't hesitate to push Mary away, making it clear she didn't care much for her. As Mary began to speak, she would say, "Grandma is scary," more often, and gradually she started to keep her distance from Hillary. One day, Cody noticed this and confronted Hillary.
"Mary seems to be afraid of you, Mom. You haven't been bullying her, have you?"
Perhaps intimidated by Cody's serious expression, Hillary changed her ways and started to take good care of Mary, even taking her to the park to play. Still, her harassment towards me didn't stop. In fact, it got worse. By then, I had grown immune to her petty remarks, and all that mattered was that she had changed her attitude towards Mary. Mary began to trust Hillary more, so I decided to return to my full work hours before maternity leave and fully re-enter the workforce. Cody and I staggered our work hours, asking the in-laws to watch Mary for a few hours on weekdays, avoiding the need for daycare. Henry was surprisingly happy about it, willingly spending time with Mary. Given Henry's involvement, Hillary couldn't neglect Mary, and albeit reluctantly, seemed to take proper care of her. However, one weekend morning, I was hit with a work emergency and had to go in. Right now?" My surprised exclamation made Hillary glare at me. Cody had also gone to work, having swapped shifts with a colleague, leaving Mary at home for longer than usual. Moreover, Henry had left early to attend a friend's child's wedding, meaning Mary would be alone with Hillary for a while. I quickly informed Cody and asked him to return home as soon as possible. I considered using a drop-in daycare, but figured it would be difficult to arrange on such short notice. While pondering my options, "I'll take Mary to the shopping mall, so you better head off and come back quickly," Hillary stated. Hearing this, Mary jumped with joy, urging, "Let's go," and pulling on Hillary's hand. Surprised by Hillary's offer, I thanked her repeatedly. After reminding Mary to listen to Hillary, I headed to work. However, that afternoon, a phone call left me pale. It was the police, trying to call me.
"Your daughter is safe with us. She was found locked in a car. A passerby helped her. Please come to the shopping mall's office,"
the officer said. Take a deep breath. Being in police custody meant she was safe and unharmed. I tried calling Hillary multiple times with no response. After explaining the situation to a security guard at the staff entrance, I was quickly led inside. Entering the room, Mary, surrounded by several officers, jumped down from an oversized chair and ran towards me. Alone and frightened, Mary was crying more than ever, but we managed to calm each other down. Learning that Mary had been locked in the car until I saw her safe shook me to my core. Despite the sunny and warm day, children are more prone to overheating. Dehydration was a real risk. Imagining the worst made me tremble, so I hugged Mary tightly. With no response, calls to Hillary exceeded 20. I couldn't believe it. To confront the suspicion, I had to see Hillary. I told the officers I had left Mary with Hillary and gone to work. When they said no such person was with Mary when she was found, I realized Hillary must have left her in the car. Mary couldn't unbuckle herself or open car doors yet. What if the Good Samaritan hadn't noticed? Thinking about it reignites my anger towards Hillary. Is she still inside the store? I decided to look around the store, and if she's not there, I'll head home. Mary clings to me, refusing to let go, so I decide to buy her some juice for now. The police say they'll also help look for Hillary, so we thank them for their cooperation and leave the room. I had received a reply to the message I sent to Cody 30 minutes ago. I send another message telling him I'm currently looking for Hillary with Mary and asking him to be at home once he's done with work. Cody's message was full of typos, indicating he must be quite shaken. Showing panic wouldn't do any good. It would only make Mary more anxious. So I asked Cody to stay at home for now. I buy Mary her favorite juice and some snacks to cheer her up as we look around the store. Hillary, who loves shopping, often invited me out because she didn't want to drive herself. Usually she'd ask me on the morning of when she thought of it, forcing me to rearrange my already busy schedule to accommodate her. And after I chauffeured her, not even a cup of coffee by way of thanks, just her shopping for herself all day. On days like today, when Cody and Henry's schedules overlapped, I also had to cater to Mary's whims. The mall is full of temptations, and Mary's buy me this escalates. Despite having been through child rearing herself, Hillary would ignore it, shopping for hours while I struggled beside her with a crying Mary. Her selfishness is infuriating, and thinking about leaving with Mary alone for only Hillary to claim she was abandoned to security is infuriating. It's in the past, but it makes my blood boil. And now with what she did to Mary, I can't stay silent. I'm determined to find her. I meticulously check each passerby. Suddenly, Mary points behind me. "Grandma!" and shouts. I turn around quickly, and Hillary, who was walking behind us, screams. "Ah!" Then, for some reason, she turns and runs away. "Wait, please!" Hillary heads straight for the parking lot, and I follow. Luckily, the weekend crowd ensures she doesn't get far. As we pass through the automatic doors and see Hillary's car in a section of the parking garage, something is clearly wrong. "What is this?" The rear seat window is shattered into pieces. "You did this, didn't you?" Hillary confronts me, pushing me on the shoulder. "It wasn't me." I'm furious and stand my ground against Hillary. "Who else could it be? What about this car now? Pay for it immediately." "It's your fault for leaving Mary alone in the first place. She's only 3 years old. You know there have been cases where children left in cars have died, don't you? Did you intend to kill Mary?" I retort fiercely. Perhaps taken aback by my usual compliance, there's a pause. Soon we gather a crowd of onlookers. Realizing this, Hillary gets into the car with the broken window. "I'll remember this when we get home. You're definitely paying for this." With those parting words, she drives off hastily, and the broken glass falls, and I worry about safety.
"Stop right there."
The police officer who'd been talking to me earlier stops Hillary's car. While running, the called police officer arrived a bit out of breath, hurrying over. Hillary turned pale at the sight of the police, her previous bravado gone, obediently following their instructions. After parking the car back in its original spot, Hillary, surrounded by several officers, was led through the back door.
"We'd like Mary and Misty to come along too,"
they said, so we followed. In the same pipe chair where Mary had sat hours earlier, now Hillary was seated. Mary, now fully reassured, fell asleep in my arms.
"Why did you leave Mary alone in the car?"
One of the officers pressed Hillary with a stern voice. However, Hillary retorted even more harshly. "More importantly, someone smashed my car window. That's vandalism, isn't it? You're the police, so catch the predator. It must be this woman." She pointed sharply at me, glaring.
"The window was not broken by Misty. Another patron happened to see Mary locked in the car and broke the window to rescue her. When parking and entering the mall, someone happened to pass by your car and noticed Mary's faint crying. That person broke the window, rescued Mary, and immediately notified us. Based on Mary's body temperature, she hadn't been locked in for too long, which allowed us to respond quickly. We found something with Misty's name among Mary's belongings, so we could contact Misty right away."
I nodded vigorously, holding back tears that threatened to spill. Thinking what could have happened to Mary if that person hadn't been there made me tremble again. But Hillary's attitude remained unchanged even after hearing the explanation. I often shop alone, so I forgot I had Mary with me. I realized it as soon as I entered the store, so I was going back when I saw this woman holding Mary, assuming she had broken the window." Ignoring Hillary's blatant lie, the police countered.
"But Hillary, your car's dash cam recorded you checking on Mary sleeping in the back seat, then covering the windows so she couldn't be seen from the outside."
"Why would you look at that? That's an invasion of privacy. You can't do that even if you are the police." Hillary banged on the desk and raged. Mary woke up from the noise, so I left the room with her. Hillary's screams were clearly audible even through the thick door. The dash cam also showed Hillary softly telling Mary to sleep tight. With the evidence so clear, Hillary couldn't escape her guilt. Pressed by the officers, Hillary reached her breaking point. "It's all because that woman had a daughter. I thought if Mary was gone, she would have a boy next." And confessed. This was relayed to me by the officers later. By then, I had already left the scene, because Mary became fussy upon waking. To a parent, nothing is more unbearable than seeing their child mistreated. Had I heard Hillary's comment directly, I might have attacked her right in front of the police. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, because Hillary was taken to the police station. Cody and Henry informed me of the situation. Went to hear the details later. Hillary was charged with child endangerment and arrested. Even now, Hillary refuses to go to jail, continues to argue, and plans to hire a lawyer for a trial. Without any remorse towards Mary, I told Cody I wanted to end our living arrangement with Hillary. Fortunately, Cody and Henry agreed, and Henry proceeded to serve Hillary with divorce papers through a lawyer. Cody, furious about the harm to Mary, declared they would never meet again. Hillary continued to write letters to relatives begging for help, but her crime was so severe that no one offered assistance. Likely, she'll spend her remaining years alone after release. The incident became neighborhood gossip, prompting us to move.
I'm sorry for burdening you.
Henry, apologizing for the inconvenience, offered his savings to cover our moving expenses. We sold our home, and Henry decided to live alone near our new place.
From now on, I'll take it easy, thinking of it as a new life.
Henry's expression seemed somewhat joyful. About half a year later, when our lives had stabilized, we discovered we were expecting our second child. The relief of being freed from the stress of living with Hillary must have played a part. Ironically, it was a boy, the grandson Hillary had longed for. But unlike Hillary, we were confident we could love both Mary and our son equally. Mary would rub my belly daily, eagerly awaiting her brother's arrival. Once I entered the stable period, we often visited Henry's house, continuing our interactions. Every time we met, Henry's smiles grew wider at the sight of Mary's growth. Despite everything with Hillary, she had been Henry's wife for many years, so he must have had his moments of sadness. We wanted to support each other more than ever and build a happy family.
Hey, how long does it take just to buy some meat?
Mother-in-law Savannah, as I expected, had been waiting for me to come back from buying meat. Sorry, I couldn't find any good meat.
Not any? Just come home already. Gregory is with you, isn't he?
I said in a light tone, as if it was nothing.
Going back is a bit impossible. Huh? Just come back quickly, whatever it is.
No, it's impossible. Savannah on the phone sounded flustered. Savannah, you were the one who said not to come back until I bought the meat. My name is Mabel. I'm a 25-year-old office worker. I live in New York, cohabitating with my boyfriend Gregory, who is the same age. Gregory and I met in college, in the same club, and have been dating for 5 years. After getting used to our jobs beyond the new graduate phase, Gregory proposed and we got engaged. We were planning to get married this spring. We had talked about visiting our parents' homes for a family meeting before the wedding, but both our homes are quite far from New York. The distance makes a day trip difficult, so it seems we will have to stay overnight, but Gregory has made no moves. Hey, shouldn't we decide on a date for the family meeting soon? Your home is closer, and we can make it if we match our leaves, right?
Yeah, not right now.
No matter how many times I try to set a date, Gregory skillfully avoids it and nothing progresses. If we don't have a family meeting, we can't submit the marriage application. But does Gregory not want to marry me? When I casually asked Gregory,
I don't really want to see Mom,
he said, without going into much detail. Thinking about it, Gregory had never seemed to go back home since college. Even when I went home for Christmas vacation, Gregory spent Christmas alone in his apartment, and I, worried, often asked him, "Isn't it okay for you to go home?" Every time Gregory would say,
"I'm not on good terms with Mom,"
or,
"If I go back, I won't be able to return to college again,"
saying some dangerous things. I haven't actually met Gregory's mom, Savannah, but from what Gregory tells me, I don't have a very good image of her. However, avoiding Savannah forever isn't an option if we're getting married. Savannah will become my mother-in-law, and Gregory's home will become my in-law's home. I don't need to be seen as a good daughter-in-law, but I'd rather not cause any trouble that would hinder our marriage. Why don't we go to my parents' house first? It's a bit far, but it'll be easier on you than going to your house, right? Gregory seemed a bit hesitant and thoughtful about my suggestion. If he said he didn't want to visit my home either, marriage would seem impossible. But fortunately, Gregory nodded.
Let's do that. My home can wait a bit longer.
Then it's settled. I'll match my holiday to yours. Gregory, seemingly very reluctant to meet his in-laws, suggested postponing it. I quickly settled the conversation before Gregory changes his mind and informed my parents we'll be coming home soon for a family meeting. When we finally visit my home after a long time, my parents warmly welcome us. Both Gregory and I were unnaturally nervous about attending the family meeting, but my parents didn't let it show at all. They fussed over Gregory as if he had always been their child. The family meeting was quickly over, and the topic shifted to Gregory's family. Gregory visibly darkened. Wondering if it was a topic we shouldn't have brought up, I look at him for cues. Gregory, doesn't seem to get along with Savannah much. Is that so? Did you have the family meeting? Did you go? Seeing the look we exchanged, Mom also looked disheartened. I just hope you won't have to face any harassment from her as a daughter-in-law. Mom seemed to be concerned about me after the marriage. It's okay, we're not going to live close by, and it doesn't seem like we'll see each other that much. Is that so? Gregory, please make sure to take care of Mabel, Mom said, emphasizing to Gregory. Gregory nodded with a smile, but his hand gripping the mobile phone under the table was trembling slightly. The conversation flowed on, and we talked about various things. When we mentioned that we were planning to stay overnight at a nearby hotel before returning, my parents invited us to dinner. Since we had booked a room-only plan without meals, I happily accepted their offer. After speaking to Mom, I glanced at Gregory's face, which was tense and stiff. Gregory, do you not want to?
What do you mean?
Don't you want to eat here?
It's not that I don't want to, but it's just a bit.
Gregory gave a non-committal response. He seemed not to be listening to the conversation with my parents, lost in thought. As Gregory was preoccupied with his mobile phone, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was an unknown number. Hesitant at first, I picked up the call after seeing Gregory intently looking at the number displayed on my screen. Hello?
Mabel. Gregory has always been under your care.
Hearing the voice from the speaker, a look of disgust crossed Gregory's face. I realized then that the caller was Savannah. I've always been under Gregory's care as well.
That's not what I'm calling about. You're at your parents' house now, aren't you?
How do you know that? I looked at Gregory in surprise, but he just shrugged, indicating he didn't know either.
Can you come back soon? Why didn't you come to my house first? Is there something you're hiding?
Savannah laughed mockingly over the phone, as if looking down on me. I'll be sure to visit your place soon for greetings, I replied, carefully choosing my words, to avoid provoking Savannah. Is that all you wanted to talk about? We have plans to dine with my parents.
My goodness, planning to feed my child dirty food? Foods full of additives are not suitable for my child. Bring Gregory back home immediately.
Savannah yelled hysterically. I almost dropped my phone. So forceful was her tirade, my parents looked over worriedly. It seemed impossible to convince Savannah. Please calm down. We will visit you for greetings. I made a one-sided promise to Savannah, who wasn't listening, and hung up forcefully. Gregory sighed upon seeing my face.
I hadn't told you, but during a business trip recently, I accidentally met Mom. We had to eat together because I left my bag and went to the bathroom, and probably then she got your number and the location tracking app.
Location tracking app?
It seems she could see our movements, but it's okay now. I've deleted it.
Hearing Gregory's words, my parents were speechless. Such overprotectiveness? Monitoring her adult son's whereabouts and trying to keep him close? I shivered at the intensity of Savannah's attachment. Now I understand why Gregory was reluctant to meet Savannah. So, is it okay to serve dinner? Mom, who had been watching the situation, hesitantly asked Gregory.
Yes, please. I'm sorry for the trouble.
Gregory seemed to force a smile. As Mom disappeared into the kitchen, Gregory quietly muttered,
I don't want to go home.
I wanted to be considerate of Gregory's feelings, but we couldn't marry without having a family meeting. We don't have to stay long, but we at least need to have a family meeting.
That's true.
Gregory looked down, still not wanting to go, but I managed to soothe him and set a date to visit his family. I was prepared to persuade them to approve of our marriage if necessary. While eating the dinner prepared by my parents, I pondered over the preparations for visiting Gregory's family. Gregory was in a terrible mood. There was hardly any conversation on the flight there. When I asked about what Savannah might like as a gift, he consistently claimed not to know. All I can do is pray for this family meeting to end quickly. Upon arriving at Gregory's family home after a combination of flights and bus rides, Savannah was already standing at the entrance waiting for our arrival. Dressed in a branded dress, Savannah's face lit up at the sight of Gregory. "I've missed you, Gregory. Have you been well? Not catching a cold, I hope." Savannah touched him all over, as if to confirm his presence. It seemed like she didn't even notice me. When I hesitantly spoke up, Savannah finally turned her face towards me. She assessed me from head to toe. "You must be Mabel. Quite plain, aren't you? That skirt is also in poor taste." I had specially bought a chic skirt for the greeting, but it didn't seem to meet Savannah's approval. She rudely tugged at the sleeve of my blouse and dismissed it as bad taste. The gift I brought was accepted, but was thrown into the trash as soon as we reached the living room. Gregory, with a sour face, picked up the discarded gift. "I'm sorry, but we don't have the habit of eating such cheap stuff here." Gregory was about to open the sweets, but I hurriedly stopped him, fearing another complaint about additives. The tea and cake Savannah prepared had no portion for me, while Gregory's front was filled with seemingly healthy homemade sweets. Gregory didn't react to anything Savannah said. The air was awkward and heavy. Gregory barely touched the snacks prepared by Savannah. I intervened to hold a formal family meeting. Only then did Gregory speak a bit to Savannah, but once the meeting ended, he became as still as a statue again. "How about steak for dinner? Gregory's favorite, right? You'll stay for dinner, won't you?" Though we had planned to leave before dinner, Savannah's pressure made us awkwardly nod. For the first time, Savannah spoke to me without sarcasm. "That being the case, could you go buy some meat? I only feed Gregory the finest, so make sure you order correctly." Okay. Savannah continued cheerfully. "I'll teach you how to make dishes that Gregory will like. After all, he probably can't stand to eat what you cook." Gregory has never left my cooking untouched during our cohabitation. However, it seemed there was no benefit in boasting that fact. Just as I was about to follow her directive, Gregory quietly muttered,
"Mabel's cooking is better than Mom's."
The atmosphere froze. Savannah, taken aback by Gregory's unexpected blow, trembled with anger. That comment was enough to wound Savannah's pride. With her face flushed, Savannah dragged me up and pushed me out the door with all her might. "Don't step on our property until you've bought the meat. I'll have a long talk with Gregory." The door was slammed shut in front of me, and I heard the sound of a heavy lock, effectively locking me out of the in-laws' house. Yet I wasn't the least bit disheartened. I was worried about Gregory, but if he had the courage to stand up to Savannah, he would be fine. Without looking back at the in-laws' house, I started walking towards the city center.
"Mabel!"
I heard my name called from a distance. Turning around, I saw Gregory running towards me. Once he reached me, he stopped to catch his breath. "Are you okay?"
"Yeah, I said if they're going to insult you, I'm not coming back," and I stormed out.
Gregory asked,
"What about the meat?"
but I shook my head. "I haven't bought it yet."
"We don't need to buy it. We're not going back there anyway."
Forgetting what happened at the in-laws, our mood had already shifted toward sightseeing. Originally, the plan was to go sightseeing immediately after the family meeting, but we hadn't expected to start enjoying our time so early. Savannah must be waiting for me to buy the meat and return with Gregory, but we're not going back. I muttered to myself and decided to take a leisurely tour of Gregory's hometown. As we visited places like the park Gregory used to go to when he was in elementary school, my mobile phone received dozens of calls, all from Savannah's number. Fed up with the incessant ringing, I reluctantly answered the phone. "Hey, how long does it take just to buy some meat?" As expected, Savannah had been waiting for me to buy the meat in return. Sorry, I couldn't find any good meat. Not any? Just come back already. Gregory is with you, isn't he? I replied in a nonchalant tone. Coming back is a bit impossible. Huh? Just come back quickly, whatever. No, it's impossible. Savannah sounded flustered on the phone. Savannah, you were the one who said not to come back until I've bought the meat. Indeed, Savannah had said that. Don't step on our property until you've bought the meat. I was faithfully following Savannah's instruction. I'm just following your orders, Savannah. Don't you think I'm being a good daughter-in-law? Savannah was at a loss for words. Take that back. Come back right now. As I hesitated on how to respond, my mobile phone was taken from my hand. Gregory, who had returned at some point, was holding my phone. Like I said before, if you insult Mabel, we're not coming back. Besides, Mabel's cooking is perfect. Actually, Mom, you should learn from Mabel. With that, Gregory handed back the phone to me. The call was still connected, so I carefully listened for Savannah's reaction. Savannah was clearly shaken, rejected by her beloved son. Hey, Mabel, can we just talk? Savannah's voice softened, desperately trying to win me over. Looking at Gregory, he seemed to have lost all interest in Savannah, and was happily searching for our next destination. I respect Gregory's wishes. If he doesn't want to meet you, Savannah, I don't want to either. Wait, just a minute, Mabel. I hung up the phone as if shaking off Savannah's obsession with Gregory. I also set Savannah's number to block incoming calls. How about we go for a steak? There's a good place nearby. Gregory suggested with a smile. This was for the best. Feeling relieved, I started following Gregory. We happily got married that spring. We changed our living place and both our phone numbers simultaneously. Now, Savannah couldn't find out where we were. Savannah had visited my parents' house a few times to inquire about our whereabouts, but each time my mom confused her with lies like, they're in the Caribbean, or they're in Italy. Whether Savannah believed my mom's words and went abroad to look for us is unknown. We're considering a wedding ceremony, but since Gregory doesn't want to invite Savannah or any relatives associated with her, we're thinking of having a small ceremony abroad, just the two of us. My parents were disappointed but gave their blessing, insisting we take lots of photos. Freed from Savannah, Gregory began to smile more and no longer seemed to live in the shadow of fear. I worried about Gregory feeling like he lost his family, but my parents treated him like their own son, so it turned out my worries were unfounded. We even started talking about having children, and I began to seriously consider starting a family. Imagining our future child, we laughed together.